The idea that poor people in the United States are dying for lack of care is simply not true.
Ben Shapiro claims that Americans aren't dying from lack of health care. There are numerous articles stating that thousands and thousands of Americans are dying every single year from lack of health insurance. So either you're being intellectually dishonest, or you're just too lazy to make a simple Google search. What is it, Ben?
If you're sick, you now have the right to demand that my wife, who is a doctor, care for you. Rights that derive from individual need inevitably violate individual autonomy.
He also said this silly thing about what would happen if healthcare were guaranteed to everyone as a right. He thinks that it would mean stealing labor from his wife. However, everybody is already guaranteed a fair trial as a right. Does that mean we're stealing labor from judges? You're being silly, Ben.
Not only that, but Ben Shapiro also commits what is called a strawman fallacy, where he deliberately misrepresents the opposing view. Ben Shapiro seems to have this bizarre belief that people who live in countries with socialized healthcare systems force and demand doctors to do their jobs. This is entirely false. Doctors choose their occupation of their own volition. And if they want to leave, they are entirely free to do so. Nobody is holding a gun to their head, and nobody's free will is infringed upon.
The problem with Medicare for all is that when people say that it's affordable, this isn't affordable to the person who has the Medicare. It is not affordable to the country. In fact, it is so unaffordable to the country that the state of California was a nut-job leftist state, just refused to even pass Medicare for all because it would have immediately doubled the debt.
The argument conservatives make is that Medicare for all is too expensive. This claim, however, has been fact-checked and debunked by numerous reputable sources. Dr. Andrew Gaffney also completely destroyed several conservative arguments on healthcare on Fox News, and here is just a short clip.
A Bernie Sanders type of plan would cost over $32.6 trillion. Now, to put that into perspective, it nearly doubles the size of our already bloated federal government right now.
So that study that you mentioned, it actually estimated that overall healthcare spending would be lower under single payer. Okay, actually $2 trillion less over 10 years.
There's also this common misconception among conservatives that countries with universal health care do not have any form of private health care. This is false. Most countries with universal health care also have private health care options available. And surprise, surprise, most people are more than satisfied with the public health care and do not opt for private health care.
Because the truth is that there is basically universal health care in the sense that if you go to the hospital, they can't turn you away, but it's very expensive in the United States.
Ben Shapiro makes this preposterous claim that the United States does have universal health care, in the sense that they will not turn you away if you were to go to hospital. My question is, would they turn you away if you were to go to the hospital and you had $0 in your wallet? Absolutely. So no, the United States does not have universal health care. It's a ridiculous claim. Any country could claim to have universal health care then by that measurement. Ben Shapiro likes to claim that you can have only 2 out of these 3 attributes in a healthcare system.
Affordability, quality, universality. Right? It can be cheap, it can be good, and it can be for everyone. But you can only have 2 of those things. You can't have all 3. There is no program that is cheap and good and for everyone. It just does not work that way. You can have 3 things in healthcare. You can have affordability, universality, and quality. Those are the 3 things that you're looking for in healthcare. Every system can guarantee no better than 2.
However, I would like to disagree with Ben Shapiro on this one. America really only has 1 out of these 3 attributes, if that. It's definitely not affordable, it's not universal, and quality, well, I guess that's up for debate. Cancer treatments, yeah, sure, we could argue that it has good quality for cancer treatments, but pretty much every other first world country has at least 2 of these attributes, which would be affordability and universality. And I don't really see why Ben Shapiro or anyone else would like to say that these other countries do not have quality as well. It can certainly be argued that Singapore has accomplished all 3 of these attributes.
The United States spends about 17% of its GDP on healthcare, making it an embarrassing outlier even among the most developed nations. Singapore, on the other hand, spends just 4% of GDP. This is, in fact, lower than the minimum recommended by the World Health Organization. On this metric, Singapore is surrounded by poor countries like Sudan, Eritrea, and Madagascar. If you didn't know of its world-class outcomes, you'd assume, based on this number, that it must surely be a struggling backwater, not a thriving global finance hub. In designing healthcare systems, governments willfully choose at most 2 of the following: price, quality, or equal access. They do so because they accept these natural trade-offs, believing that you can't have it all. Singapore, on the other hand, seems to have solved this MC Escher-level puzzle and delivered all three.
Truth is, the world has a two-tier healthcare system. It goes like this. You live in a socialized country, and then if you have money, you come here for your surgeries. There's a reason people travel from Canada to the United States for surgery. They don't travel from the United States to Canada or the United States to the UK.
Motherfucker, are you out of your damn mind?
They don't travel from the United States to Canada or to the UK. Really? Do you want me to fact check that on you? I don't think Ben Shapiro bothered to do a simple Google search on this subject, so I did it for him. Here we'll take a look at an article from the American Journal of Medicine. It says, patients who travel to another country to seek healthcare are referred to as medical tourists. The term arose because many Americans seek less expensive, elective, surgical, dental, or cosmetic procedures while vacationing abroad. Of course, U.S. hospitals and physicians have also long cared for medical tourists from other countries. Now, many tourists are going the other way, from the United States to other countries to receive health care. Did you hear that, Ben? In 2007, it is estimated that 750,000 Americans traveled to other countries for health care. In 2017, more than 1.4 million Americans sought health care in a variety of countries around the world. The reason more Americans have become medical tourists is simply that they are seeking less expensive health care. Yeah, but who cares about the poor, right, Ben? Most expensive healthcare system in the world. It is not difficult to find countries that offer various procedures at 30 to 65% of the cost of care in the United States. Now here's another article from BusinessInsider.com. It says, estimates for growth demonstrate a consistent 35% growth in outbound medical tourism annually. Projections indicate that roughly 1.6 to 2.5 million Americans will travel abroad in 2012, and spending could reach $100 billion. That's right, $100 billion US dollars being spent in foreign countries for healthcare, such as elective surgeries, complicated dental surgery, plastic surgery, and even coronary bypass surgery. So while there are foreign citizens who come to the US for treatment every year, it pales in comparison to the number of American citizens traveling elsewhere. Yeah, but nobody travels elsewhere, right? And here's yet another article from Business Insider covering this topic. It says, this year an estimated 1.4 million Americans will leave the country for a medical procedure, according to Patients Beyond Borders. In addition to traveling in order to save money, some medical tourists plan trips because they want to have a treatment that's not approved in the United States, or because, get this, they will have a shorter wait by going abroad. Wait, I thought Ben Shapiro always brags about America's wait times. What's this about? However, it may be noted by some that these medical tourists are traveling to third world countries to get their medical care, where doctors are paid less and henceforth medical treatment also costs less. But as I've shown you, even in comparable first world countries, America's Medicare is way overpriced. Ben Shapiro also says that Hollywood portrays America's health system as a paragon of failure. So we will take a look at a scene from the movie Purple Hearts.
I found out 6 months ago that I have diabetes. Type 1. And, get this. The insurance I have doesn't actually cover the insulin that I need to, live. So I can either pay off my debt or pay my rent, but I can't do both. Married spouses get full health benefits. And we get extra pay just for being married, like a basic housing allowance and separation pay, which adds up to be pretty decent, and we could split it and everybody wins.
Now, Hollywood did a pretty accurate portrayal of America's healthcare system in this scene. People consistently have to choose between whether they want to have healthcare or whether they want to pay for rent, which is why so many Americans go bankrupt from medical bills every single year. No other first world country even compares to this. 1 in 4 Americans refuse medical care because they cannot afford it. Wow, this is such a great medical system, isn't it? Many Americans also take an Uber to get to the hospital rather than an ambulance because it is much more affordable.
One woman captured the true problem when her leg got stuck between a train and the platform, bleeding heavily from a deep laceration that would require surgery. She begged bystanders not to call an ambulance.
I actually stopped taking ambulances. Really?
And GoFundMe should basically be considered a healthcare provider in the United States. No other first world country is like this. It's freaking pathetic. Here is a list of when countries adopted the universal healthcare system. And guess what? Not a single one of them ever backed out of that decision, because it was obviously a better idea. A major contributing factor towards America's ridiculously expensive healthcare is its high administration costs. According to a study of 8 countries, 25% of all U.S. hospital spending consists of administrative costs, including salaries for staff who handle coding and billing. An article from PubMed says, before Canada's single-payer reform, its payment system, health costs, and number of health administrative personnel per capita resembled those of the United States. By 1999, administration accounted for 31% of U.S. health expenditures, versus 16.7% in Canada. Conclusion: the gap in health administrative spending between the United States and Canada is large and widening, and it apparently reflects inefficiencies of the U.S. private insurance-based multi-payer system. An article from Time says, administrative costs now make up about 34% of total healthcare expenditures in the United States. Twice the percentage Canada spends, according to a new study published Monday in Annals of Internal Medicine. These costs have increased over the last 2 decades, mostly due to its growth of private insurers' overhead. The researchers examined 2017 costs and found that if the U.S. were to cut its administrative spending to match Canadian levels, the country could have saved more than $600 billion in just that 1 year. The difference in administrative costs between Canada and the U.S. is enough to not only cover all the uninsured, but also to eliminate all the co-payments and deductibles and to amp up home care for the elderly and disabled, says Dr. David Himmelstein. So in summary, the USA spends so much on health care in part due to its highly privatized system. Comparable countries have much lower administrative costs in part due to a single-payer government-run program. And if the United States were to adopt a universal health care program, the amount of administrative savings would be enough to cover all the uninsured. How's that for facts and logic, Ben? Wait, sorry, I forgot. Your facts and logic don't actually involve around stating facts or logic or citing reputable sources, just your own opinion and availability bias. Another myth you'll hear propagated by conservatives is that universal health care results in longer wait times. Proponents of this argument usually commit several fallacies. One argument they'll often use is that I've known people from Canada who come to the United States because they had too long of a wait time. And they usually make this argument without pulling any statistics or facts to back up their claims. Another problem with this argument is they're using something known in psychology as an availability bias. Basically, they use subjective experiences that they can think of off the top of their head to come to objective conclusions. This is very faulty reasoning. Furthermore, they always propagate this myth by pointing specifically to Canada. I kid you not, every single time they mention Canada. This is known in psychology as confirmation bias. Basically, you look for something that supports your conclusions and you ignore all the evidence contrary to your conclusions. And you can see by these statistics that basically every comparable first world country aside from Canada outperforms the United States in terms of wait times.
The reason for that is because the vast majority of medical innovation happens in the United States. It's very easy for everybody to live off the legacy of the fact that all of the best drugs are created here, all the best surgeries are invented here.
If you've been paying close attention to Ben Shapiro's arguments, you'll notice that he consistently uses faulty all-or-nothing thinking. All of the best drugs are created here, all of the best surgeries are invented here, nobody travels to other countries for medical care. Ben Shapiro's argument that the United States has the most advanced or innovative healthcare also commits what is called the false equivalency fallacy, because it fails to take into account that the United States population is significantly larger than any individual European country. Now, here is a list of citable documents according to SJR. Now, when adjusted for the population, Canada scores significantly higher than the United States. The same can be said for Germany and the United Kingdom. However, to give credit where credit is due, the United States does score higher than Japan and France, even when adjusted for population. Now here is an article on Wikipedia which lists the countries by number of scientific and technical journal articles. As you can see, China ranks number 1 and the United States is second. However, when these countries are adjusted according to a per capita basis, which basically takes into account the population, you can see that the United States is not even close to the top. In fact, the United States would then rank number 39th. Now here is another source with the top 40 countries by number of research papers published this year. As you can see, the United States looks pretty impressive. But considering that the United States has around 9 to 10 times the population of Canada, yet Canada has about 1/6 the number of research published per year, you can see how Canada is actually pretty impressive on this scale. The same thing can be said for countries like Germany and the United Kingdom. Does the United States do more medical research and innovation as a result of the higher cost of their healthcare? When you look at this chart, you might think so. But if you start breaking it down by per capita investment, the argument begins to founder. For instance, the US population is 10 times that of Canada's, and the US spends much more per capita on healthcare, but only produces 7 times as many research documents. Population of the US is 36 times that of Sweden, but produces less than 20 times the amount of research. The US is large, well-populated, and wealthy, and is undoubtedly a powerhouse when it comes to research and innovation. But to connect it to the higher cost of healthcare, Americans are getting shortchanged dollar for dollar. Now, to be completely fair, I did find a few articles that were more positive towards America's medical innovation, like this article on Sterling, or this article on Peter G. Peterson Foundation, which ranks the United States healthcare as 6th worldwide because of its innovation. Or this article on freeop.org, which ranks the United States as number 4th in the World Index of Healthcare Innovation. And last but not least, I found this PDF by Policy Analysis, which says why America leads the world in medical innovation. And these graphs shown within the PDF certainly take into account the population. As you can see, according to this source, the United States does actually outrank the other countries. And this article shows a graph here which goes through the top medical innovations by country of origin, and even when taking into account the population difference, the United States still outranks the European Union and Switzerland combined. And here's another graph considering the top 29 pharmaceutical innovations by country of origin, in which the United States does do slightly better than the European Union and Switzerland also. So maybe you could argue overall that the United States does have more top medical innovation, but overall the United States does not produce more medical innovations than other countries. Which brings us to the final question. What is the purpose of healthcare? Purpose of healthcare is to take care of the health of its citizens. The United States healthcare system fails this in all regards. Thousands upon thousands of Americans are dying every year simply because they cannot afford the healthcare. This should not be in a first world country. This is really pathetic, to be honest with you. And if you want to argue that it has good cancer survival rates, or is medically innovative, yet it fails to care for the health of its average citizen, I consider that a failed system. I realize that in spite of everything I have said, in spite of all the facts, statistics, and logic I have brought forth, there are many patriotic Americans who will vehemently defend the United States no matter how corrupt it is, or no matter how horrible it is. And I mean, if you want to go down that rabbit hole, fine, be my guest, see where that gets you in life. But just don't pretend that you abide by the truth, or you believe in the truth, because you don't.
Among all major developed nations, it's pretty clear that the United States comes in dead last.